ऑल राइट, सो वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन। इसमें हम क्या करेंगे, सबसे पहले करेंगे कॉजेस। जब हम कॉजेस करेंगे, while we will be doing causes for industrial revolution, we have to do a very specific thing, that why it started from Britain, right? ये एक बहुत स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन आता है ये पेपर में. So while doing causes we will be doing it. So while doing causes we'll be doing why it started from Britain. Then we will do features of industrial revolution. While doing features, we will do features of British industrial revolution. Then we will compare it with the Japanese industrial revolution and Russian industrial revolution, which is very important as a comparison, right? We will not do comparison with India here. We will do comparison with India while you will be doing your economics. वहां पे इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन इंडिया के फीचर्स आएंगे, ब्रिटेन, जापान, रशिया के मैंने दिए हैं, इंडिया के तुम वहां से यहाँ पे लाके साथ में लिख लोगे. Done. So first we'll do causes, why Britain, then features, Britain, Japan, Russia, then we will do consequences of industrial revolution. Here we will do positive and negative consequences. First is the term industrial revolution refers to the changes brought about by replacement of hand tools with machine tools. Done. Simple. When there was no industrial revolution, there was no machinery, we used to make things with hands. That is why it was handicraft. When we invented machine, now the things were produced by machines, and that is industrial revolution. Machine tools, hand tools with machine tools. Is it clear, everyone? What is industrial revolution? Simple, plain, precise definition. Next, second point, changes in production. ये भी introduction ही है. Changes in production process resulted in large scale fundamental transformation in overall economy, society and political life. Done. Now look at this. When I say now overall change in life, if I say economy, before industrial revolution, the contribution of primary sector to economy was the biggest. After industrial revolution, it will be the secondary sector that will be the biggest contributor in our economic life. So it is a great transformation from primary to secondary sector of economy. When I talk about society, earlier people were doing work for themselves. Now they will start becoming wage laborers, right? There is going to be a change in society. Political life, earlier it was the landlord who was politically more influential. Now it will be the industrialist who will become more influential politically. Clear? Agla point. Britain was the first country in the world Britain was the first country in the world where industrial revolution began, in 1760s, and continued for more than 100 years. For first 100 years, it was exclusively British. It was exclusively British, right? Exclusively British. Britain was the first country in the world where IR began in 1760 and continued for more than 100 years. Subpoint. During second half of 18th century, the IR still was confined to Britain, but during the opening years of 19th century, Industrial Revolution reached Belgium. As some of the factory owners from Britain carried their machines to Belgium. Next main point. During the time of Napoleon's rule, IR started in Industrial Revolution started in France. Next point, main point. Establishment of Zollverein. Zollverein. Establishment of Zollverein, brackets 1819. I will explain the meaning of this term Zollverein. First, let's write the statement. Establishment of Zollverein in 1819 paved way for Industrial Revolution in Germany. Subpoint. Real industrialization in Germany started after its political unification in 1871. Now, what is this Zollverein? Don't write anything because we will discuss when we will be doing German unification, right? As I was telling you, if this was Germany, so it was divided into many countries before its unification in 1870s. And then there is Austria, and Austria had its control over South German states. Among all the German states, one of the biggest player was Prussia. So one fine day, Prussia decided, let's start doing trade with all other German speaking states without having any duties or taxes involved on this trade. So it is going to be a duty-free trade, or we can say they agreed through making Zollverein, they agreed to create a free zone, free economic zone. Once the economic activity started among all the German states through Zollverein, it was kind of economic integration. And this economic integration, that all these people do trade without taxes, laid foundations for political consolidation, right? So this Zollverein started by Prussia to do duty-free trade with all the smaller countries in the region, with German-speaking countries. It created bigger market for Prussian goods. And with this, Prussian industrial revolution started to grow. When Prussia's industrial revolution grew, Prussia became a great economic power. With great economic power, they could now have better military. Because they had better military, they could fight wars and win every other country. Because they won entire area and it became Germany with core in Prussia. It was the center of Germany. Now, the Prussian industrial revolution became industrial revolution of Germany. This is how industrial revolution in Germany became great. This point is done. Next main point. In USA, IR began on a small scale. In USA, IR began on a small scale in 1820, but large scale industrial revolution started after the American Civil War. In 1860s. Right? Next, Japan was the first Asian country. Japan was the first Asian country to witness IR, Industrial Revolution, after Meiji Restoration. 1868. After Meiji Restoration, 1868. Now, what is Meiji Restoration? In Japan, the kings who were ruling Japan earlier, they had been sidelined for good 200 years. After 200 years, the king were given their adequate or due place. Now that coming back of the kings to power is called Meiji Restoration, but we will do it when we'll do history of Japan. We have to do this topic as well. There I will not refer to Industrial Revolution, but I will talk about the political events. So today I'm telling you, when the kings came back, the event is called Meiji Restoration 1868. And once the kings came back, they gave a lot of attention to industrial development, and thus even Japan became an industrial power. Last, Russia, RUSSIA. Russia was the last European country. To witness IR, Industrial Revolution, where it started on a small scale. In 1890. Subpoint. Real IR in Russia. Was witnessed after the success of 1917 revolution. 1917. After the success of 1917 revolution, whereafter Russia became USSR. After the revolution, Russia became USSR, and USSR became a very big industrial power. Last point is Russia was the last European country where industrial revolution started in 1890. Subpoint, real industrialization started after the success of Russian Revolution of 1917, whereafter Russia became USSR. Chalo, next heading likho. Causes for industrial revolution. Causes for the coming of industrial revolution. And with this, we will also cover the second topic, why it started from Britain. Right? Because it came in Britain. So we have to do the causes. Causes are specific to Britain. So both the questions can be done simultaneously. Causes as well as why it started from Britain. Introduction. Britain was the first country in world Britain was the first country in world to witness industrial revolution. And it was an outcome of typical economic, political, and socio-religious environment. Prevailing in Britain. Now we will start with economic factors. First point. There was a great demand of British goods. There was a great demand for British goods in the continental European markets. Now, how can there be demand for British goods before the Industrial Revolution? We are saying the causes for Industrial Revolution, then we are writing there was a great demand of British goods in continental European markets. All right, then right. Great demand of British goods in continental European markets. Number 2, commercial revolution. Had already taken place in Britain in the 17th century. And trade and commerce therefore was in an advanced stage. Because of which there already existed a big market for British goods. Next, number 3, Britain had already witnessed agrarian revolution. agricultural revolution, agrarian revolution in 17th century. Agrarian revolution in 17th century. Subpoint. Because of the success of enclosure movement. Because of the success of enclosure movement, ENCLOSURE. Because of the success of enclosure movement, comma, land consolidation happened. Land consolidation happened. And the availability of labor became a possibility. Availability of labor became a possibility. When the land consolidation happened, now many people got free from agriculture. When they became free, now you have adequate manpower who can come and work in factories. Earlier, they all were working in fields. Now, when you have the labor to work on the machines only, then revolution can be successful. So Britain is very lucky. They first saw commercial revolution. There is demand. They know that if we will invest, we will get the profit. Then luckily they got agricultural revolution, because of which now the manpower is free. That manpower can now be relocated to industries where they can work as labor class. So from peasant, the workers became the labor in the industries. That is how industrial revolution became a possibility. One more subpoint. British cultivators got new agricultural tools. New agricultural tools like steel plowshare. हल स्टील का बन गया. Steel plowshare. PLOUGHSHARE. Plowshare. And now more land can be brought under cultivation. Last subpoint. Success of agricultural revolution ensured availability of raw material for the industries. So everything is in place now. Commercial revolution, agricultural revolution, you have free labor class to work, you have money to invest, you have markets to explore. So everything is in place for Britain. Next main point. By the middle of 18th century, there was huge capital available in Britain because of the surplus balance of trade. With both the continental Europe, as well as the colonial empire. Clear? Britain is making huge profits out of all the trade that they are doing. So they have so much of money that they can invest into experiments. all land was consolidated on which you can use the new machinery, tools, iron plowshare. Less people required now because land has been consolidated. Earlier there were small farms, so on every farm an individual is working. They have no iron plowshare, so it is very basic kind of tools to till the land. It was very labor intensive. Now that you have this iron plowshare, steel plowshare, things became little easier for you to do. Then the land has been consolidated. Earlier she had, let's say, 1 acre, you had 1 acre, he had 1 acre, I had 1 acre. Four of us were busy doing agriculture on 1 acre for us. And then because we were single-handedly doing it and we had no technology, no steel plowshare like things, so she produced, let's say, 20 quintal, 20 kgs, you produce 20 kgs, he produced 20 kg, I produce 20 kgs. This is, what is this? This is only and only sustenance. We will consume what we produce. So there is no surplus. So every time we have to continue doing agriculture. With the consolidation of land, the 4 acres came together and I said, okay, with this steel plowshare, I can alone do this. 3 of you are free, do whatever you want to do. So you migrated to cities with the availability of food ensured. That way industrial revolution became a possibility. Next point, अभी इकोनॉमी की चल रहा है. Better means of communication, better means of communication, because Britain being a Britain being an island nation, trade and commerce was possible. Trade and commerce was possible from all sides. Let's take one example. Right? Let's try understand this statement now. If this is one country, right, in Europe, let's say this is France. Now on this side there are Germany's, here it is Italy, here there are some other countries, here we have other countries, here there is some ocean, and then there is Britain, right? Now if France wants to go from this side, perhaps Spain and Portugal will object to it. If they want to go through this side, Germany's will respond. If they want to come through this side, Italy's will respond. So they have only one opening and there Britain is sitting. Now Britain can move here, here or here, and even they can come here, and they have to only fight here. So they have so much of the freedom, so much of the flexibility that they can trade in any direction. Now same is the situation today with India. Why India has so many problems? When we talk about the problems that India face, this is India. You have such a big coastline, you can do all the trade, maritime trade, but then you have Pakistan, you have China. They do not give you any access. You have Bangladesh, you cannot even connect with your northeast properly, right? So you have so many problems while dealing with all these players. Then here you have Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka create problem for you in Indian Ocean. Then China creates problem in the Indian Ocean. They try to surround you so that you must not have freedom of trade, right? So when you have freedom, like you do not have any challenge, so it always become easier for you to expand your trade. And Britain was lucky enough because they had all these privileges, that they were an island nation. And to add on to it, you being an island nation, Britain, you too had the best navy in the world. Now who can compete against you, right? So Britain has all the advantages. Agla likho, last point hai. Let's complete this point. Last point. In England, the coal and iron mines, were located close to each other. So बड़ा easy हो गया ना, एक तरफ से coal निकाल लो, extract coal, extract iron, smelt and make your iron machinery. In other countries it was not that closely available. So in Britain, coal and iron mines were located close to each other. So that's why industry can grow more rapidly. So this is all about economic factors in Britain. Now talk about social factors. Social factors, number one, Britain witnessed rapid population growth. All right, social causes. Britain witnessed rapid population growth in the 18th century. In the 18th century, now that population grows, they will demand everything, like they will demand more goods. So you have to either produce or you have to acquire. So better it is start producing, right? Why to acquire when you can produce them? So Britain witnessed rapid population growth in 18th century, with which the demand of manufactured goods increased. With which the demand of manufactured goods increased. And therefore, machines were invented and used. Machines were invented and used to increase production. To increase production. Number 2, I ask you a very simple question. Because Britain was doing a lot of trade, they had better navy, they were doing a lot of trade, they were earning lot of money. When you have so much of money, you then develop an appetite to take risk, right? Let's say I have 100 rupees. क्या ही मैं उसमें रखूंगा, क्या ही मैं इन्वेस्ट करूंगा, क्या ही मैं सेव करूंगा, क्या ही मैं रिस्क लूंगा? I do not have risk taking appetite. Now when I have 100,000 rupees, I can still think of कि चलो यार थोड़ा रिस्क लेते हैं, 10-15-20 हजार रुपया मार्केट में डाल देते हैं. Now when I am ready to take this much of risk, what I become an entrepreneur. And the entrepreneur is like a startup. And if the startup clicks, then you become unicorn. That exactly happened with Britain. They had little bit of money, so they could take the risk of investing it in something new. When they invested it in new, it became successful. So they were the first to take the risk and they were the first to be successful. So second is, there existed a class of entrepreneurs. There existed a class of entrepreneurs, E-N-T-R-E, P-R-E-N-E, E-N-T-R-E, P-R-E-U, sorry, N-E-U-R-S, E-N-T-R-E, P-R-E-N-E-U-R-S. बाकी अगर अभी if somebody is not able to write, please Google and write the spelling entrepreneurs. There existed a class of entrepreneurs in England who had risk-taking appetite. Who had risk-taking appetite, ability, risk-taking ability, and therefore they invested in new economic activities. And therefore they invested in new economic activities. Done. This is second. Number 3, England. If you look at the history of England now, in 1600s itself, 1642 Britain saw first civil war. The king was killed. 1688 they have become so mature that they now talk about glorious revolution, bloodless revolution, democratic rights are given, parliament started developing in England from 1690s onwards. Now that England had already seen the revolutions which Europe had to see later on, so Britain has become more stable politically. Because they are politically stable, there is a parliamentary system in England, so people are given more liberty, more freedom to decide their life. So the social life is free. Because it is free and stable, there are no conflicts unnecessarily, so they can invest their time on constructive things rather than people of France or Germany who were only fighting wars. So Britain had better advantage of political and social stability. So let's write this point. Social life in England was largely peaceful and stable. Largely peaceful and stable, and therefore there was a possibility of and therefore there was a possibility of constant growth. Constant growth. Next, number 4. The British society was liberal and progressive. The British society was liberal and progressive, and therefore they adopted a pragmatic outlook, and therefore they adopted a pragmatic, pragmatic outlook. Pragmatic is practical solution, to find practical solutions to the problems. It means to find practical solutions to the problem. Now there are basically 3 types of ideas, 3 type of theories. If I talk about international relations, listen to this, don't write anything. In international relations, there are 3 basic schools. One is idealism, one is realism, one is pragmatism. When I say idealism, right, people say in political science, idealists say human being is very good because human being basically run the world. The leaders are human being, they are good. So there is a possibility that one fine day we all will sit together, we will find solution to all the problems, and in future there will never be a war, right? This is idealism. How beautiful it seems to be, how rosy a picture of future it is, but it is practically not true, right? Because we know that human beings are not that good. We all are to some extent selfish. Because leaders are selfish, nations become selfish, and thus there is always a conflict. So idealism is something which is not practical, but people think that this can be possible in some near, not near, but distant future, right? That is idealism. Then there is realism. They say no, it is never possible that war will come to an end. At best, what we can do, because of our selfish motives, we can delay the war. India and China will not fight war because China understands that if we fight war with India at this point of time, then there are many problems. India is a big market. If India boycott all Chinese goods, then our trade will be jeopardized. If somehow we attack India, we can sustain with the economic challenge. But if USA comes to help India, then we will be on the back foot. Let's delay the war till the time we are not sure that we can survive without Indian market, and we can also tackle America's entry in the war. So yes, because of some idea, the war can be delayed, but you cannot say that war will never happen. This is realism. Idealism says war will end. Realism says war can only be extended, it cannot end. And last comes the idea of pragmatism. They say, if you know that war can only be delayed but not ended, then why don't you get ready for war? Keep your weapons ready. Even if India and China will not have not fought a big war after 1962, but we keep our armies ready. We keep our armies updated, upgraded. We keep investing in technologies. We keep investing in human resource. That is pragmatism. Done. So British were very pragmatic people. Let's write. So they developed pragmatic outlook and invested time to find solutions to the existing problems. Now let's make a small box on one side. Small means I will give you 5 points in it. These points are basically like what machines were invented. We are not required to write all these points in our answer in pre, but those students who are aiming for Punjab PCS, only and only Punjab PCS, because in Punjab PCS they ask questions in pre, you need to remember these facts. For those who are aiming for IAS, you can use any one of these facts as an example in your answer. All right. So in a box, write important inventions in Britain. In 1733, John K. John K-A-Y. John K. invented flying shuttle. John K-E-Y invented flying shuttle. Flying shuttle is basically invented for the industry where textile was to be made, right? Now we are not required to go into detail how it worked, what was its mechanisms, because we are not studying industrial revolution as a technology. We are studying it part of history. Second, in 1764, James Hargreaves, Hargreaves, James Hargreaves invented spinning jenny. Spin करना, कपड़ा सिलना, spinning jenny. Jenny, Jenny, Jenny. Next, in 1769, James Watt, W-A-T-T, invented steam engine. Next, in 1785, Edward Cartwright, Edward, E-D-W-A-R-D, Edward Cartwright, C-A-R-T-W-R-I-G-H-T, Edward, E-D-W-A-R-D, Cartwright, C-A-R-T-W-R-I-G-H-T. Edward Cartwright invented power loom, L-O-O-M, loom, कपड़ा बनाने की मशीन, बिजली से चलने वाली पावर लूम, नॉट एग्जैक्टली उस टाइम पे बिजली से, बट विद एनर्जी ऑफ स्टीम, पावर लूम. नेक्स्ट, in 1799, Samuel Crompton, C-R-O-M-P-T-O-N, invented spinning mule, M-U-L-E, to spin cotton, right? कपड़ा बनाने के लिए एक और मशीन आ गई. Last, in 1814, it's M-U-L-E. 1799, Samuel Crompton invented spinning mule, M-U-L-E. And last, 1814, George Stephenson, S-T-E-P-H-E-N-S-O-N, John Stephenson invented locomotive. So now we have many machines invented, and all these have been invented in Britain. Why? Because they had money, they had the enterprising skill, and they had all the freedom in the country. We have written two major factors, economic and social factors. Now we will write political factors. Economic factors written, social factors written. Now we are writing political factors, and last we will write religious factors. So political factors. Number one, the politico-administrative system in Britain. The politico-administrative system in Britain was quite liberal and progressive. Subpoint, Glorious Revolution of 1688. Glorious Revolution, I think we have already discussed it once. It is like bloodless revolution. Glorious Revolution of 1688 replaced absolute monarchy. Replaced absolute monarchy with constitutional monarchy. So this happened first in Britain. Constitutional monarchy with absolute monarchy, and parliamentary system started to develop. Parliamentary system started to develop. Subpoint. Parliament favored new legislations. Parliament favored new legislations which were favorable for the new economic system. For the new economic system. Second point in the political life, British people enjoyed high degree of liberty. High degree of liberty in public and private life. In public and private life, and therefore they could think freely. They could think freely to find solution to their problems. To find solution to their problems. Next, number 3, Britain was unaffected by the continuous wars in Europe. Continuous wars in Europe. You know why Britain is safe, why it is unaffected, irrespective of the fact that Britain participated in these wars. Like Britain is coming to Spain to help Spanish people against whom? Against France. Britain is coming to fight Napoleon and everything. Why Britain remains unaffected? As I said, geographically it is an island nation. Then it has the best navy. So it is not possible for any European country to invade Britain. Britain can come to continental Europe and participate. Now, when the wars are in the continental Europe, the destruction is in the continental Europe. Britain is suffering no losses because of it, right? And you will be surprised to know this. Up to World War I, Britain was never invaded. It was during World War I when, for the first time, the Europeans developed air force. Now that they can enter into Britain, and now you will be more surprised. Up to 9/11, America was never attacked. The first time America was under attack from outside, it is 9/11, because they are sitting so far away across the oceans. Who can go and attack them? So America is always safe. Now think about India, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka. You have so many players around you, always troubling you. Then think about how you can grow and become powerful enough. All your money spent on looking after these things only. And then they have all the money to disturb you further. Pakistan can send terrorists. China can give money to the terrorists. They can give arms. That Pearl Harbor attack is a very small attack on one side, and then there is a theory, right? There is a theory that it was allowed by America itself so that they can get a reason to enter World War II. Meanwhile, next point, Britain was unaffected from continuous wars in Europe. Next, Britain had an extensive colonial empire. extensive colonial empire which served as a source of raw material, as well as market for British goods. Market for British goods. Last, Britain adopted a favorable outlook towards the new economic system. Done. These are political factors. So religious factors, number one, Britain over the time had become predominantly a Protestant nation. Britain over the time had become predominantly a Protestant nation. I know while doing American Revolution, I told you that Britain was Catholic and the Protestants ran away to America, right? But now I'm saying over the time, Britain has become a predominantly Protestant nation. Now, though your examiner will never ask you why they became Protestant, how they became Protestant, when they became Protestant, I'm just giving you a little example for your butterflies to satisfy, right? One of the kings, forget who was the king, he went to Pope. He was a Catholic at that time. He went to Pope. This is a real story, right? I'm not making a fact out of nothing. So the king of England, he went to Pope. He said, see, my wife is barren. She cannot give me a child. And in Christianity, in Catholic religion, divorce initially was not allowed. So he said, my wife cannot give me a child. So from where I will get a successor to me? Now I need to get a child. So you have to allow me divorce so that I can marry my sister-in-law, my wife's sister. So Pope said, no, I cannot allow you. Already there are so many challenges to church. He said, in that case, okay, I turn Protestant. मैरी तो मुझे करनी है ना दोबारा, शादी तो करनी है, तो फिर प्रोटेस्टेंट बन के करेंगे. Thereafter Britain started becoming Protestant. Done. But nobody will ask you this. So predominantly a Protestant nation, and the Protestant ethics played important role. Protestant ethics played an important role in the success of Industrial Revolution. Now, how could Protestant ethics play a role in success of Industrial Revolution? Look at this. Catholic religion teaches us stay away from materialistic things, stay away from money, surrender yourself to God. And if you run after money, you will be cursed. Whereas Protestant ethics says, can't you see simple that if God is happy with you, that's why you are rich? Then what is the problem in running after money? If you are destined to get money, you will get money. Work for it. You will not get it without work. But then if you are fortunate, God is happy with you, your work will be rewarded and you will become rich. Obviously, I hope you understand, you all will agree. Perhaps we all believe in it. God is more happy with Ambanis and Adanis rather than with those who are begging on the roads. So Protestants say that God is happy only then you are rich. So what is the problem in it? So write it down. The Protestant ethics emphasize on education, hard work and material prosperity. Now write the concluding line. Such a positive attitude, चाहे political हो, economic हो, social हो, religious हो, such a positive attitude inspired the British to venture into venture into uncharted territory, uncharted territory where nobody has ever gone, uncharted territory, and emerge successful. Features of industrial revolution in Britain. Number 1, factory based production system. Industry based factory based production system. Earlier, what was the situation? You used to work at your home and make the products. Now there is a proper factory where you will go, there will be machinery, and then you will work. Next, mass production. Mass production. Now when you work with hands, you can produce very little, but when you work with machines, you will produce in mass, like it will be huge quantity of production. So with industrial revolution, you went to factories. This is factory based production. In factories, you had machines, so now you have the mass production thing, large scale production. Number three is production system was guided by market needs. Production system was guided by market needs and capitalist ideas. Market needs is demand and supply mechanism. If the things are in demand, produce them. Capitalist idea means for profit, right? Number 4, the British Industrial Revolution was quality conscious. The British Industrial Revolution was quality conscious. From day one, Britain, when they started producing things, they were so very quality conscious. They always made the best products, no compromise with the quality. They knew that there is market and we can get the profits, so they always made the best products. Next, the British Industrial Revolution believed in the doctrine of laissez-faire. The doctrine of laissez-faire, that means no state interference. Right? Next point. ये अगला लिखो. It was powered by indigenous innovations. Every invention was made by the people of Britain, inside Britain, and used for Britain, right? Indigenous innovation. They did not copy any idea from outside the world, right? Indigenous innovations. Next, it emphasized on production of white goods. Now, what are these white goods? If you have done economics, you must be aware of the term white goods. If you haven't done, it's a very basic concept. There are two types of goods. One are called consumer goods. And the other are called capital goods. Now, when I say British Industrial Revolution focused on consumer goods, these are the goods used on day-to-day basis in day-to-day life. Day-to-day life, we need things like, let's say, we need a towel, we need a blanket, we need a shirt. This is basic things. So you produce basic consumer goods. Whereas when you make machines which can then produce new machines, this becomes capital goods, right? So British Industrial Revolution focused on consumer goods. They made few machines through which they made consumer goods. We will talk about Russian Revolution and then we'll talk about consumer goods ki jagah capital goods. All right, next. Production of white goods, that is consumer goods. Consumer goods to meet the demands of existing market. Existing market. Next, it was based on the idea of formal relation of production. Formal relation of production. Now, what we mean by formal relation of production? See, there was a time when I used to I used to teach at home. I was a teacher for IAS exam. Alone, I used to teach at home. It was so informal that students used to come to my place at 4 p.m. right? Though the time of the class was 5 p.m. And I used to stay in my room and do my things, and then at 5:30 I used to go in the class. Then I had one more teacher who used to come to teach math, and I had no agreement with him. He may come, he may not come, he may inform, he may not inform. Students came at 5, they kept waiting up to 6 and then they went back. This is informal system of anything. Then I opened up an institution. Now it's like factory. Here the notes are already ready. You ask for them and you get them. The tests are already prepared. The lectures are already recorded. The teachers are on the back end call. They are sitting inside the institution. If one teacher is not well, other teacher will immediately step in, but the show must go on. Now this is formal relation. In this formal relation, I sign contract with my teachers that you have to teach and you will be paid this much of the money for the hours you put in. And if you do something extra, you will be given bonus for that, right? When you make contracts and you keep people on wages, that becomes formal labor, right? This is formal contract or formal relation of production. I hope this is now clear to everyone. In exam, nobody will ask you to explain this, but for your satisfaction, I explained. Next point. The state played the role of facilitator. 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 Now, what is the role of facilitator? State did not invest. It gave people the freedom to do what they want. So state did not play direct role. It was indirect role. A teacher is a facilitator. Teacher will guide you. You will study and you will get the result. So state was facilitator. Next. In England, it was not a sudden event. It was not a sudden event. Rather, it was a result of a long drawn out process. 100 years लगे इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन को स्टेबलाइज होने में. A long drawn out process. Sub point. The revolutionary character was not the speed, was not the character, but the fundamental changes. But the fundamental changes that it brought in the life. It was not like that, that one fine day everything changed, but slowly and gradually life kept on changing. And that is why now when we say industrial revolution 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, we see that suddenly life doesn't change, but within some time the life changes fundamentally. For example, with 4G technology, the life has changed like anything. Now we can, study online with much ease. Think about the time when you, like, in my age, if I would have thought of online classes, the cursor would have been rotating all time. Now technology change with which revolution has intensified. Done, but it did not happen overnight. It took a lot of time. I have seen internet coming with pangs and now with swank. Next, last सब पॉइंट है लास्ट इसका भी. During the early decades, when it started, now for 100 years, when we are talking about in the first 20-30 years, during the early decades, the British Industrial Revolution was largely confined to cotton textile. Subpoint. British historian Eric, E-R-I-C, Eric Hobsbawm, H-O-B-S-B-A-W-M, Eric Hobsbawm says that, now put this statement in a quote: whoever sees SEES, whoever sees IR in Britain, comma, says cotton. Whoever sees IR in Britain says cotton. Oh, industrial revolution for cotton textile. Look at the machine for cotton textile. Look at the factories in Manchester for cotton textile. So what for did we do all this? Why the industrial revolution came? For cotton textile, right? So that was the situation in England initially. Last में एक box बनाओ. The machine and the steam, जब तुमने वो steam engine बना दिया, the machine and the steam increase the output of worker by a factor of 1000. जो एक आदमी काम कर रहा था वो 1000 आदमी के बराबर काम कर सकता है. So a man can perform the work of 1000 people. Last main point, another feature of British Industrial Revolution. One of the negative features of British Industrial Revolution was the exploitation of the working class. Now, what kind of exploitation it was to which the working class was subjected? Write it down. First point is meager salaries, very less salaries. MEAGRE, meager salaries. Number 2, long working hours. They were paid less but were made to work for long hours. Number 3, unsafe working conditions. The factories were so dangerous, people could like die while working on the new machines. Next, life in slums. गंदी झोपड़पट्टियों में, बस्तियों में रहना, life in slums, unhealthy, unhygienic living conditions. Last, women and children suffered the most. Women and children suffered the most. Now, what we mean by women and children suffered the most? I give you an example. You will be surprised. This is again a fact. When in England, I will give you a very small example of one of the factories. It was a factory where basic sweet candies were made, right? So they said men come and they work. Chalo, let me give you a better example, which will give you more meaning. In the coal mines, the men were asked to come and bring the coal out of the mines. Now, what happened? See, this is your coal mine. So the men entered, men being taller in height, they could go up to one point. Then the women were asked to go into deep, pick up the coal and give it to men, and men will take it out. and then it is like even women are tall and they cannot like keep themselves on their knees. So now children were asked to go deeper inside, and they will give coal to their mothers or their sisters, who will then hand it over to elder brothers or fathers, and coal will come out, right? So the men who work, they said men are stronger, so they will be paid 2 rupees. Women who are gone inside, they are not bringing the coal outside, they are just handing it over to the men, 1 rupee. The children, they were playing outside, we just asked them to come and help their parents who are already been paid. Children will be paid nothing. So they got the work done without paying anything to the children. And look at the children sitting at the hot bed of methane, inhaling all the methane deep inside the coal mine. बच्चे ही पागल हो गए, एक पूरी जनरेशन खराब कर दी गई काम करवा करवा के. Now this is the level of exploitation in England. Clear everyone? एक जगह पे तो बच्चों को ये बोला कि you will go and put the coal in the wagons, कार्ट में डालोगे, and whosoever will come first outside, he will be given a sweet. सारे बच्चे अंदर से भर भर के ला रहे थे, उनको एक जो फर्स्ट आता था उसको टॉफी मिल जाती थी. अब लिखो इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन इन जापान. Industrial Revolution in Japan, subheading circumstances behind Japanese industrialization. Japan was the first country in Asia to witness industrial revolution in 1870s. And it was not an outcome of the natural factors. Now, what I mean by it was not an outcome of the natural factors, in Britain, there was commercial revolution, there was agricultural revolution, there was already demand of British goods. So it makes sense that they invented machinery. Now, nobody is asking Japan to do anything. Then why did they go for industrialization? So there was no natural factor. What happened? Japan was living a very, very isolated life. When they were living this isolated life, one fine day when America started becoming a little industrialized in 1820s, initial industrialization. So some of the Americans, they reached the coast of Japan and they asked Japan to open up. Let's do trade. The Japanese thought that, see, these whites, wherever they go, they destroy the things. We have seen examples. We have heard stories of China and India. So Japanese were not ready to open up for trade. They were so conservative. When they did not agree, the American commanders, they started shelling the Japanese cities. They threw bombs on the cities. With this, the Japanese turned very aggressive. They said, bullshit with all this nonsense. We will invent our own machine. They sent their people to Europe to learn what is industrial revolution. When they came back, they said, we are not fools. We are not going to go for inventing the wheel fresh. Like if the wheel has been invented, now why to do it again? Use it. So they went for reverse engineering. They copy pasted everything that was in Europe. Because they copy pasted, it became so easy for them to achieve the European levels of industrialization within 20 years. So Japan's revolution was the quickest revolution. They did not invent anything new. They just copy pasted from Europe. Now, this is how you can compare the British and the Japanese industrial revolution, right? So next point, it was not an outcome of natural factors. Second point, in 1853, American commander, naval commander, Matthew Perry, Matthew, M-A-T-H-E-W, Matthew Perry, P-E-R-R-Y, tried to force Japan to adopt open door policy. What is open door policy? Open door policy is, please open up for trade. Let us not be denied the right to trade with people of Japan. That is open door policy. दरवाजा खुला रखो, हमने आना है. right? That is open door policy. Sub point. Japan had been following a closed door policy, towards the Europeans and the Americans, due to fear of colonization. Sub point next. The incident of bombing, जब उसने वो मैथ्यू पेरी ने शेलिंग कर दी, the incident of bombing by Perry triggered radical nationalism. In Japan as their national pride was hurt. Next main point. All this resulted in Meiji Restoration, MEIJI, Meiji Restoration in 1868, and the Meiji rulers were strong nationalists. Who pushed Japan onto the path of industrialization. To restore the national pride. Last concluding line for all this. Industrial revolution in Japan started in 1870s. And by the opening years of 1820s, and by the opening years of 20th century. Japan emerged as a major industrial power. And you know what happened when Japan became an industrialized nation? Now even they need raw material, they need markets for finished goods. And the first target was the Korean region and the China region. And then they started fighting with Russians as well. With Russians, they fought a big war in 1904 and defeated Russia, took over Kuril Islands and much of the territory. Then all of Manchuria region was captured by them from China, right? One by one, Japanese were becoming very powerful, and now they were threatening America in the Pacific. So small nation like Japan, they became so very ambitious that by the time of World War, you know what they were talking about? They said, we want a Japanese empire from Japan to China, Korea, including to India, to Australia and New Zealand. Leave all this region to us. Nobody will interfere. Let British leave India. That's why they were coming to India when we launched Quit India movement. So Japan had become so very ambitious. America was so very threatened with this. They said they have to be taught a great lesson, and thus the atomic bombs. after World War II. Like the war ended with the 2 atomic bombs being dropped on Japanese cities of Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Done. So Japan became such a great power in no time. It was a real surprise for the world. Next is features of industrial revolution in Japan. Features of industrial revolution in Japan. So first, the common features. Number one, factory based mass production. It is common both in Britain and in Japan. Number two, capitalist character. They were also seeking profit. Number three, guided by doctrine of laissez-faire, freedom of trade in Japan as well. Next, production of white goods. That means consumer goods. Production of white goods. Last, formal relations of production. Formal relations of production. All right. So, new elements. What were the new elements in the Japanese IR? New elements. Number one, powered by reverse engineering. No new inventions in Japan. Powered by reverse engineering hyphen no innovation hyphen import and copy machines. Import and copy machines. Next, IR in Japan was not an outcome of market needs, rather it was an effort to restore national pride. Next, the role of state was quite crucial. Britain में state was only facilitator. Here state played very crucial role. The role of state was quite crucial as it provided capital. पैसा सरकार ने दिया जापान में. ब्रिटेन में प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स थे. It was the private player in Britain. In Japan, the state was the investor. Next, there was lesser exploitation of working class. There was lesser exploitation of working class in Japan because both the capitalist and the worker were guided by spirit of nationalism. Next, the pace of industrialization in Japan was extremely fast. I hope I have explained this already, otherwise. Was extremely fast, comma, within 30 years. Within 30 years, Japan attained European levels. Last is Japanese products initially were of quite low quality. ब्रिटेन ने हाई क्वालिटी मेंटेन की फ्रॉम द स्टार्ट. Japanese products initially were of quite low quality. The reason was they wanted to produce substandard goods, little less in good quality but cheap in price, so that they can first reach the markets easily, right? As China did initially. China ने भी low quality products बनाए थे. We used to laugh ना, Chinese लगता है जल्दी खराब हो गया, but they were very cheap, so people kept on buying things. Now even the Chinese products are becoming more and more sophisticated, better quality, right? But soon Japanese too became quality conscious. There is a very popular instance from the real life that in 1970s, America ordered Japanese company to make spare parts for one of the products. The Japanese were asked by the Americans to make some spare parts, and the purchase order said, we are asking for 1 lakh products, right? You have to send us 1 lakh pieces. Make sure that we will not accept one wrong part, one faulty part against 1000 right products, right? So if there is 1 in 1000, we will accept it, otherwise we can cancel the order. Now Japan sent 1 lakh pieces in one consignment and 100 pieces separately, which were not properly made, and the letter written was, can you please explain why you needed 100 wrong products? We were so sure we can make 1000 good quality products. Why did you ask for 100 wrong products when we were sure we can make all perfect? This was the level of precision then attained by Japanese industries. Now this is all about Japan. Last is IR in Russia / USSR. International relation of Russia, right? Industrial revolution in Russia or USSR. It became USSR after 1917's revolution. Russia was the last country, 30, Priya 30, not 13, 30. Russia was the last country in Europe to undergo industrial revolution. And the early factories in Russia emerged in 1890s. Second point, the king of Russia is called Tsar, CZAR, and some people write it TSAR. So both are same, CZAR or TSAR. So the king of Russia is Tsar, so it is Tsarist, CZARIST, Tsarist regime. That means the administration of Tsar. Second point, Tsarist regime was unconcerned about the national economy and therefore when IR began in 1890s, it was an outcome of private efforts. State did nothing initially. Private efforts, and that too by the foreigners. If the foreigners are the investors, they will be more exploitative. Obvious reason, they are foreigners, they want more profits. Subpoint, France invested in coal, steel and iron industry. Second subpoint, Britain invested in petroleum. And third, Germany invested in chemical factories. Germany invested in chemical factories. Next main point. Up to 1917, the level of industrialization was quite low. And the real industrialization in Russia began. After the success of Russian Revolution. After the success of Russian Revolution of 1917, whereafter Russia became USSR under the leadership of Lenin. Under the leadership of Lenin. Last point, star लगा के लिखना. Within less than 3 decades, USSR emerged as a superpower. See, 1917 there was a Russian Revolution. Before this there was very low industrialization in Russia. Now that the revolution happened, it took them 3 years. By 1920 USSR started working for its industries, and by 1945, less than 3 decades, otherwise this is almost 3 decades now, right? By 1945, when World War II ended and Cold War started, who were the two greatest players in the world? USA and USSR. Both were the superpowers. So within 30 years or less than 30 years, Russia became the greatest industrial power to now compete against the biggest industrial player in the world, that is USA. Right? Now, why it happened that Europe, Britain, which was a great industrial power for 100 years, from 1760s to 1860s, how it happened that by 1950s, Britain is nowhere and it is Russia and USA, USSR and USA. World War I and World War II, these two great wars are fought in Europe predominantly. When they were fought in Europe, the Germans, the Italians, the French, the Britons, all of them were fighting. And the war was World War, and they intentionally destroyed each other's industries. When they destroyed each other's industries, the manpower declined because many men died. Now the industrialization started becoming slow here, and now they were exporters. Now they became importers. They had to import goods from USA. Therefore, after World War I, USA started becoming more powerful, and after World War II, USA became most powerful. Done. This explains the rise of USA. And this I explained before anybody could ask me. Now it is features of IR in USSR. We are not writing features of Russian Revolution, Industrial Revolution. We are writing the features of Industrial Revolution in USSR. Number 1, factory-based mass production. Same feature. Factory-based mass production. But now all other features are different after one common feature. Number 2, role of market forces absent. Nobody is asking Russia to produce again. Role of market forces absent. but here it is different from Japan. How it is different? Hyphen. State agencies decided. State agencies decided as to what was to be produced, and how much to be produced. How much to be produced. Number 3. It was a communist economic organization. It was a communist economic organization hyphen all resources were owned by state. And role of private player was totally absent. यूएसएसआर है ना, कम्युनिस्ट था कल. आई होप यू रिमेंबर, मैंने कल समझाया था सोशलिज्म कम्युनिज्म. And the role of private player was totally absent. Next, it emphasized on production of capital goods. Remember now, consumer goods and capital goods. Russia will make more machines to make further machines, right? Capital goods. Next, Russian Revolution, industrial revolution in Russia. Basically, don't write in Russian Revolution because then it will be 1917 revolution. Russian Revolution, industrial revolution was powered by national centralized planning. And taking inspiration from this national centralized planning of Russia, we started 5-year planning in India. In Russia, it was Stalin who introduced planning so that they can plan for next 5 years and then 10 years that how industry will grow and how it will create conducive environment. Next, role of state was extremely important. Because all the resources were owned by state. Next, exploitation of the working class was totally absent. Because there was no employer or employee. It was all state controlled. There was no employer or employee. Next, last, there was no profit motive. And all were working for national prestige.